Welcome to Make Your Mark Live. My name is Mark Moyer, and this is all part of the Win Academy series. Super excited to have Jed Collins on board. Jed is a former NFL player, a financial advisor, certified financial planner, resident of the great state of Washington, which is way out there, very north of the Bay Area, of course. And say hi, Jed.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Appreciate your time.
All right, thanks for being here. So listen, we're going to jump right in to just a quick background about you. You did attend and graduate, thankfully, college at Washington State University, apparently God's country, somebody once said, the end of the earth and so forth. But you graduated a few years ago, and then you played in the NFL for several seasons, 7 years, I believe it was. And you retired in 15, I think it was, about 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And but you were sort of on top of your game to an extent, and you were still wanting to really take the leap forward. You became a financial advisor. You studied and passed your testing to become a CFP, and you've now started a new program called Rookie to Veteran. You are passionate about educating athletes and non-athletes about everything tied around the financial space. Whew, how did I do? Like that was like 38 seconds right there.
That was good. The only thing I would add in there is I wrote a book, Your Money Vehicle, and became an Amazon bestseller, which was a wonderful accomplishment, but really a horrific example of what is happening right now. But yeah, absolutely, that was my journey. I was an accounting major at Washington State. I got to go experience this dream. But what I woke up to was my first paycheck. My first paycheck came in, and I spent every dollar of that, just as most guys do, before that check even really hit my account. Now, full disclosure, I bought an engagement ring. My wife and I are 10 plus years of marriage, so it turned into an investment. But to this day, I know for a fact that was a very poor way to handle money. And it woke me up to a mindset shift that I was totally unprepared. I thought the dream, the NFL professional athletic dream, was make it to there, and you've done it. I got paid. I was a pro athlete. And it wasn't until somebody sat me down and explained that's not the dream. The dream was not to walk across the stage as a rookie and get announced. The dream is to walk out of the game with what I like to call a bag of M&Ms, stolen from one of my coaches, Joe Vitt. He said, you want to leave with some memories and some money. You want to be able to look back at the game for what it's given you, not what it's taken. And that really introduced me to a mindset shift around how to not just be playing checkers with my money each and every day, but to try to start to formulate a chess strategy and to see what the game and what the opportunity was and how it was going to impact the rest of my life.
Well, that's a great answer. And it's interesting, and I talk about this when I'm talking about writing my book, and I'm sure you saw this when you wrote yours, but it's also when you reach the NFL. I think there's a tendency, just as you said, for when people reach that quote pinnacle of their sport to get there, they feel like they've climbed Mount Everest, but then
Mm-hmm.
then the clouds kind of go away, and then you're like, holy crap, I'm only halfway up,
Yeah.
because you've gotten there, but now you've got to really kick it into high gear to stay there. It's not just getting there, it's staying there. And then, yeah, I mean, look, at the end of the day, your goal is as a player to also win the Super Bowl, World
Yep.
Series, etc., and to perform well, but it's also to stick around. You don't want to be the person that goes in and then just plays for a week or two and either gets injured or just kind of is kind of mailing in, spends all their money, and that's it. So let me ask you about that first paycheck and that sort of thing. um, Again, when you're that young and you get suddenly have all that chunk of money, you're not necessarily thinking, oh, I'm going to put some away for my future. You're not thinking that. You're 21 and you're stupid and whatever it is, right? But um, did back then, was the NFL or the team or anybody trying their best to say, look, Jed, don't buy this or don't buy that? Or was it just like, see you later, good luck?
It's a hit. Well, number one, I want to address something that you just said around, climbing and believing you've achieved. And this is where I've begun to define the difference between wins and success. And it's an interesting parallel, and it's one of those things that I love provocation. Like I love the idea of like somebody hearing something and being like, is that what he meant? Or my slogan is eliminate potential, because I want people to think about what that process is. So when I talk to young professional athletes, whoever, a win is something you achieve. A win is an external measurement that you say, I beat that person, I beat that number, I achieved that thing. Success is an ongoing flat platform. And so when you look at, as an athlete, as a financial, as a marriage, as a professional, you definitely want to have wins. You want to be able to focus and look at and enjoy wins and victories, but truly to identify success as, did this process make me better? Did it increase and improve me into a direction I want to go? And is that a never ending road? Hopefully. Hopefully success is a never ending road. Wins along the way are wonderful, but don't mistake a win just beating an opponent. I've won many games where I got worse, and I've lost many games where I've got better. And so that measurement of wins to success is always an interesting thing. But no, why I have changed this interest that kind of was shocking on an individual basis to my passion and my purpose is I looked around the NFL locker room. I looked around myself, who was an accounting major and grew up in Orange County, California, and had zero preparation for getting that first paycheck. I said, if I didn't know, most of these guys in the locker room absolutely had no idea. I even then turned to my brothers, who one was getting a master's at Berkeley, the other was getting a law degree from Harvard, very, very highly educated guys. And the reality was I started asking them questions, and then they started asking me questions as my education and knowledge grew. So the NFL has always tried. Do I want to condemn them or call them out? I believe it has always been one of those things that you check the box, not to discredit themselves. They are not paying to prepare you for your life after. They're paying you to perform on the field. The team's responsibility is win the game on Sunday. Is their responsibility to make sure Jed has money when he's 54? No. And that is one of the first understandings that we have to really appreciate. We all play for this team on the side of our helmet, but that name on the back, nobody is going to care about that name more than I do. And if I don't care about that future self, that person you were talking about that very few at 22 can envision, nobody is going to. There's a new app out that will age you. I don't know if you've seen this on social media and stuff, but it is a skill. And I've actually used it in workshops with younger audiences and said, hey, here's you at 16 or 24. Now, here's a visual of you at 54. Like, you got to start thinking about that person. If you're not, again, nobody is. So the NFL has gotten better. They're trying more. When I was playing in 2008, the suit and tie guy came in from Morgan Stanley or Goldman Sachs or whoever, fill in the blank national firm, and they spoke over everyone's head. And I actually wrote an email that's up on my wall to myself. I'm a journaler, so I journaled it and then I emailed it, so I have documentation. But in 2008, I said my dream would be to come back and teach a course that guys understood and that gave them a plan and a strategy to go and start to implement. Was I going to create wealth for them? Absolutely not. You don't need to. Your journey, your career will be the wealth creator. I spent the last 5 years in wealth management, and there are endless ways to capture wealth, to manage it, and then to make sure, as you said, you sustain it. And so that is where I, in the NFL, and I've got to work with some other professional sports groups, we're starting to change from, hey, this one-off class or session a year. Well, how can we touch guys, throughout the week or the season or throughout the off season? How can we have 30 touches at 1 or 2 minutes as opposed to one touch at 35 minutes? And what sparked a lot of interest was in April, Financial Literacy Month. I actually ran a question a day financial literacy test. I didn't deliver the content. I had 30 NFL players deliver the content. And it really woke a lot of people up to, wow, okay, so maybe we need to address this differently. Maybe we need to change our approach. And that's the programming, the courses, and what I'm trying to do is look at the NFL, Major League Baseball, NBA, whoever it is, and say, I'm not telling you secrets, but here's a digestible plan that every rookie that walks in the door can go take.
That's brilliant, and that's quite a bit of what I'm trying to do with the academy that I'm spearheading, because it's, and we talked about this before, it's something where you have to have something that's digestible, that's understandable, that's
Hmm.
implementable, that it's something that if I'm watching your presentation, or you're watching mine, whatever it is, that we hang up the phone or we put this down and we go and do something because we're empowered to do it, but we also say, you know what, I can do that, instead of,
Hmm.
I don't understand what the hell he was just talking about.
Yeah.
And you're right. I think, it's interesting that, the NFL and all the other leagues, they'll bring in, whether it's these wealth managers, et cetera, and parade them in front in their suit and tie, and they'll blah, blah, blah. And the player will watch that person and say, well, he seems like he knows what he's talking about. I don't know what the hell he's saying, but I guess I'll use
Yeah.
him.
Sure.
And that's bad. I mean, it's got to be something where the athlete needs to understand what the advisor is saying. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. That's a great
So
segue. Go ahead.
that's so
Yeah,
the you can see it right behind me. It's
good.
backwards, but my slogan is to use money. What I want my course to do is to get you to use money. You understand, S, strategize, and E, be efficient. And I really love your designation. I went on a path to be a financial educator. I wanted to go and teach and teach and teach. And I love that. I get passion from it.
Mm,
But I realized it was going to fail. And that was a humbling moment. That was a realization of like, Jed, no matter what, it could be Bill Gates, no matter what brilliant thing you are delivering in front of a room, if you're not worried about the end consumer and them digesting it and them having the confidence to act upon it, you're totally missing the point. And so when my message went from educator presentations to facilitator of workshops and made it much more about no longer education but empowerment, and empowerment is the confidence to go and act,
yeah,
that is when I started to get some traction. That is when people walked out and said, man, he said a lot, but I know I got to go do this one thing. He was very clear. I have to go do this thing. And that is all I can hope for. Again, one of my specialties is I manage my expectations after my expectations have been not met for a long, long time. But I'm learning when you stand in front of a room, you're not going to be the world game changer for everyone. If you can find one person and get that one person to do one thing, it was worth your time and theirs.
perfect. So, with all that said, let's say I'm a 22-year-old, 25-year-old, 20, whatever it is, year old
Mm-hmm.
athlete, and I'm being sort of told some things that I just don't quite understand. What do you think, in your opinion, Jed, are some of the basics that I should know about my money, my finances? And this is not just for athletes; it's for really anybody that's sort of like, well, I don't want to understand that, or I don't want to, whatever it is. What are some? Just give me a couple of things that I should know. Let's say I'm getting my check, and whether it's $2,000 a week or $402,000 a week, whatever it might be, what should I know about that, and what should I know about what I have to spend, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And the reality is if it's 2,000 or 200,000, if you don't have a plan, you're more than likely going to end up in the same place anyway. So if you look at it, I would say, obviously we talked about job number one is capturing the dream. That dream, we begin with goal setting. But if I was looking at actual factual things you can go do, from an athlete, number one, I always introduce them to the reality of taxes. So I have a money bucket system where I walk people through 5 choices you can make with every dollar. And for athletes, I can give you a high level strategy of what a cash management system would look like. But I have written into the New York Times, I am sick of people saying, I just signed a $20 million contract. No, you didn't. And if you spend like you signed a $20 million contract, you're not only broke, you're in debt. And that's a scary, scary thought. So
Right.
I think one of the first and most powerful ones is getting people to understand the income tax code, how it's progressive, why it scales up, and why taxes are a good thing. You look at this day and age right now, unemployment insurance is paid through by our taxes. The hospitals that are open and free for the public are paid for by our taxes. So I want people to see good events. I made money, I bought something or whatever. Those are good events, and those associate with society and taxes. So I think that's a big chunk of it. But actionably, I think number one would be, what risks can I remove? I look at an umbrella policy. I think absolutely every player that suits up on the sidelines should have an umbrella policy. Why? Because they're a Google away from everyone in the world knowing they make $500,000. And because of that, they are at risk and a liability.
So why don't you quickly explain what that is, umbrella
Excellent.
policy?
Okay.
Yeah.
So as I look at it, because I was also going to talk about auto insurance or
Yeah.
renter's insurance,
Yeah.
those are protecting you. I sit down behind the driver's seat of my car, my physical car, not my money vehicle, my physical car, and I go out to drive. The only reason I can drive, a 16-year-old can drive, and an 82-year-old can drive is because we have auto insurance that says if I get in an accident, I'm not protected, but the person I hit is going to be. And now when I look at that, my insurance policy maybe says, I'm protected for $100,000 per accident. That's one question you would sit down with an advisor if they're a holistic planner and start to ask, is this enough? Is 100,000 enough? But beyond that 100,000, let's say, God forbid, I hit a pole, that pole fell into a Domino's pizza. Now I'm in a much, much bigger problem. Thank God nobody got hurt, but that's not going to be $100,000 of damage. That's going to be $1 million of damage. And so what is that risk, and how do I transfer that risk to somebody else? That is where an umbrella or a catastrophic insurance policy comes in. So I get to that 100,000, my insurance, my car insurance company says, here's a $100,000 check. This is terrible. They then look at your umbrella insurance policy, may be the same, may be different. I would talk about bundling, but I look at them and then say from 100,000 to 900 to $1 million, that 900,000, that goes on to my umbrella policy. And it is a very low cost functionality of filling those gaps in your plans. What are hazards to your health and your wealth that we can remove? Umbrella policies are an easy one that, again, if you are just been drafted or you get signed by a team, that is one of the first things I would go get because it's actionable and it removes. Is it going to be used every year? Absolutely not. But insurance policies like that are just like plungers. You don't know you want one until you really, really need one. And I would put that in the category of a very easy step. If you have a financial advisor, you are a financial advisor, one of the quick and easiest value adds is explaining, hello, 22-year-old, my job is to not just make you money. In all honesty, you're going to make more money than I can ever make you. But what I can do is protect you. I can manage this world. Let's start to take and remove some of the risks. You have a risky profession and a job. Let's look at these elements in this world. So I think that one of the rookie to veteran principles is mow your grass, control the controllables. I don't control where the market's going. I do control where I am protected from an insurance perspective, what risks I have transferred off.
Okay.
I think,
now,
go ahead.
I was going to say, so that's great to know. So number one, so I'm gonna boil that down into 22-year-old speak. Cover your ass. Cover your ass financially.
Cover
CYA.
your assets.
There, nice.
Yeah.
I have a feeling you've used that before. Anyway, but anyway, and so I hear that, and I appreciate that, and that's good to know. So I'm going to go ahead and find whether it's my advisor or somebody to get me that umbrella policy. We'll talk maybe on a different webinar about the intricacies of some of the other, whether it's homeowners and car and that sort of the sort of cover your assets kind of a thing. But in terms of the actual, and let me take a step back. The LA Rams, one of the things that they do, their head of player engagement was telling me, is they bring yes, McClendon, right? So they bring in their rookies into a room, and then they've done this before. I don't know if they're still doing this, and they bring in literally a wheelbarrow full of cash, and they dump it on the table, and they got the Brinks guy right there to make sure, whatever. And it's $1 million of cash, and they stack it all up, $1 million, boom, right there. And these, obviously the players, they're all whatever, 21, 22. They're like, oh my God, right? And they said, this is $1 million right here. And then they start doing this visually, and it's awesome. They take a shovel, and they basically go like this, and they take 450,000, whatever it is, put that in the car, and gone, taxes, 30,000 agent, 60,000, whatever it is. They keep on whittling it down until there's like 82,000 or something left out of that million. And then they say, this is what you play with. This is what you have right here, this little stack. And that when they see it and they visualize it, it's to me a much greater impact than
Yeah.
a whiteboard where you're just doing 1 million and they're like, yeah, we're just back in
Yeah.
class
Yeah.
again, whatever, we're too cool. So to me, what I really want to be focusing on is just sort of how can we make this so that we're catching the interest of that athlete, maintaining that interest, and really impressing upon them, because for the most part, most, especially the young athletes, are mostly bulletproof, or that's what they
Mm-hmm.
think, until the day they demolish their knee or whatever it might be. So that's the lesson that needs to be told. But I love what you're talking about, especially with the umbrella policy, because that's especially, you're right. The minute anybody says, "Oh, Jed just made 20 million bucks," victim, here we go, let's go get him,
You are a
kind of thing.
target.
Yeah,
And I love that visual. And I love Jacques up here in Seattle. His name's Mo Kelly. There are player personnel guys, mostly former players, who are trying, who are looking at this thing and saying the problem has not changed over the last 20 years.
right.
How do we? And so that's what, in my book and in my workshops, I'm a storyteller. I have those visuals. When I talk about taxes, we go to an ice cream parlor. When I talk about insurance, we go out on a boat. And you start to use these analogies and these stories. And then what's beautiful is if you know your specific group, I know I'm talking to the rookies or I'm talking to third-year players. I know I can build out then a scenario. I can show you a case study. If I had that $1 million before me, I would probably do it the way they do it the first time. But then the second time when I walk through my money buckets, that first 30% would shovel off into future me. And when we get
Right.
back down to that $80,000, you look at it and say, go play with this. Go have
Yeah,
fun with this. You know
yeah,
why? Because you've already taken care of that.
right. That's
I
good.
love that. And I love
Good.
the ability to visually show exactly what we're talking about.
Perfect. Now, in terms of, and this is a great little sort of shift. Let's say that person from unnamed investment bank or wealth management firm comes in, their suit, tie, whatever it is, and they start speaking, and I'm kind of listening, but maybe I'm not. If I was taught by somebody on what to listen for and how to choose an advisor,
Mhm.
if I need one and so forth, give me a couple of, like, just 2 or 3 or 4 things that you think you just list off that you say, look, forget what they look like, forget what they're dressed like, even almost forget what they're saying.
What they
Here's what you
drove
need to
up
know.
in.
Yeah, what they drove up in, they're rented, whatever.
Yeah.
But here's what you need to know.
So one, Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start with the Why. So I
Yep.
use why, how, what. Why are you not a fiduciary? How do you get paid? What exactly do you do? That first one is bar none the most important. That term fiduciary, again, I'm a storyteller. So imagine yourself walking into your favorite restaurant, you sit down, and the server comes up to you and hands you that menu. In this relationship, the server is the expert here. The server is your advisor and the
Right.
person that's going to guide you. You see salad, you see fish, you see steak, and you ask, well, you're the expert. Which one should I choose? And they say, get the fish. Trust me, get the fish. What they didn't tell you was the chef grabbed them before the rounds and said, the fish is starting to go sour. You're going to get $1 for every plate of fish you sell.
Yeah.
But because the fish was on the menu and it is suitable for you to eat for dinner, they are held to that standard, the suitability clause. That means they can act in their best interest as long as it's on the menu. Now, if you were to exchange that for not a suitable wait server, but a fiduciary server, you would look at the menu, salad, fish, steak. Which one should I choose? They would be honest. It is in your best interest to avoid the fish because it's starting to go sour and maybe a
Right.
day or two you would have loved it, but it's just not right for you right now.
Okay.
As I walked up, I heard you talking about lunch. You had a big burger. Following up a piece of steak with a burger, that doesn't seem great. And I know you're about to go to Hawaii in a few weeks, so everybody can use a little more greens in their life. I think it is in your best interest to order the salad. That shift in responsibility, what is in I as the advisor or what is in you as the client's best interest? Now, I am not saying every fiduciary is a good person or every suitability is a bad person
Mm.
by a long shot. But our attempt in the financial industry to evolve is holding people to that fiduciary standard. And so I would say, first question, why or why not are you a
Mm.
fiduciary? And think of that menu. How do you get paid? That fiduciary is going to clear up and kind of differentiate how people get paid.
Right.
You, as a fiduciary, you can't get commissions. You can't get kickbacks on products. If you are suitable and you say, hey, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. Here are the three. Here is how I get paid on each. I'm not going to charge you a upfront fee. I'm going to make money over here. That is a different relationship, and that is fine as long as you clearly understand it. Now, then there are the people who have a hat on that say, I'm not going to sell you anything, and then down the road they get to turn their hat and their fiduciary standard changes. So I need you to understand what a fiduciary is, to clarify if your advisor is one. And then when you look at how you're going to be paying them, is it a flat fee? Every quarter, I'm going to pay you X amount of dollars, and you're going to go to work for me.
Right.
Every quarter, I'm going to pay you a little bit, and then you make a little bit. Or is it every quarter, I don't pay you anything, but on the products I buy from you, you get to make money on those. So that is how I would look at the how piece. Then we stand on the what exactly do you do? And this is where you need to know, like, and trust the person. Nobody is a master of everything. And that is a tough pill to swallow for any industry expert, myself included, CFP. I don't care what designation you have. You cannot be a master of everything. Even CPAs, man, CPAs every 6 months, their whole world changes and they need to go re-educate themselves. So I look at this and say, where do you begin? Where do you end? And I'm comfortable knowing that we're going to have to go get someone else to do that. But as long as you are clear on what exactly your scope of work is going to be, hey, listen, when you start talking about a will, I think you need a will. As a rookie, you just got married, maybe you have your first kid, maybe there's nobody and you just have a lot of family members. You need a will. I can help walk you through what a will is. I can help prepare a will for you. But when we come to putting that stamp on, certifying and making this will official, we're going to need to go get a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Let's go get a zone of expertise on that. Same thing with taxes. I can walk you through taxes. I can show you what itemized and standard is. I can show you how we're going to strategically approach taxes throughout the year. But when it comes to filing taxes, let's go get a CPA. Let's pay people for what they do best. And so that last category of what exactly are you going to help me with? In our world and day and age as an advisor, if you just solely help me with investments, I think going forward, you're going to have a much, much tougher time differentiating yourself or really providing enough value to offer that relationship. I think we're getting to an educated consumer time enough that a person is going to say, wait a minute, so you're not going to help me with estate planning or tax planning or my kids' education or my cash management or my charitable questions or really just, what do I do with my parents? If you don't have a base level knowledge and understanding of the holistic side of money, I think you're going to start to be weeded out of this system. So why are you not a fiduciary? How do you get paid? What is our structure going to be very clearly? And then 3, what is your scope of service and what exactly do you do? And are we going to go get a different professional in?
Well, that's great. And what's interesting about that is that, and this is something I've been, as I speak to people that are representing athletes, wealth advisors representing athletes, is I say, look, you've got to start having that value add. You've got to do more than just that. Mm-hmm. Even as an agent, a player's agent needs to be doing more than just signing, representing contracts and so forth. And to me, it's also something where I might sign on with somebody who understands that I have 100% chance of retirement. I will absolutely be leaving my sport at some point. And so I want someone who's preparing me for that next step, whatever it might be, whether it's from the financial standpoint, or maybe he or she is offering as part of their services, continuing education or, hiring a job search coach or something where they're getting more for their, because you're right. I mean, it's a financial advisor can't say, I guarantee you X%. I mean, some of them might.
Somebody
do that.
will.
Yeah, they will, but they shouldn't be, obviously. But then how do they differentiate? And you pinpointed 3 great steps there on how to really find out and ask certain questions. And look, obviously they can dig deeper. Now, there's going to be the athlete that there's plenty of them that say, well, my uncle is a financial advisor, or my good friend from high school, he just got his accounting degree, so he wants to manage my money. I mean, look, we know why we probably shouldn't do that, but we have a lot of pressure to do that. Maybe other family members are saying, hey, you got to use Uncle Joe, he knows his stuff, or you got to use Aunt Sue, she really. How do you think a player can kind of get out of that? Like, how can they get away from, using their family member?
And so I think you need to attempt to be very logical. And I never want to say never. So I don't want to say never have a family member seated at the table, but understand what comes with it. Money is emotional. Ben Graham is famously quoted as saying the chief problem for the individual investor is their emotions. So if you already know that this financial lens is going to be an emotional topic, that is going to be a problem when you tie in another emotional lens of family. And then you get into the idea of, okay, as a business relationship, number one, do they have the experience or expertise in this field? I understand that they're going to put my best interest first. That's a great starting ground that I can trust them. But do they have the experience to make these decisions? Maybe, maybe not. As I look at a business relationship, I want to be able to say, in the end, I know I can still make the right decision going forward. That decision may be, I have to separate from people I do business with. Are you ready and willing to separate from that friend or family for good? Are you ready and willing to change your dynamic forever? Because now business does not end on the field or in a room. Business comes home with you to Thanksgiving dinner. Business is there on a Wednesday when we're celebrating a birthday. And whatever that emotional tie is, that is going to be present as well. So then you look at how it would, a one-on-one relationship with me, and let's call him Uncle Larry. Me and Uncle Larry are working, and now Mark comes in, and he's a part of our team. Does Mark feel as comfortable talking to me or Uncle Larry if he knows we're family and he's the third wheel? And can he be honest with me? Can he be honest with Uncle Larry? Can he give the kind of experience and expertise he has to the degree he's comfortable with? How does that kind of dynamic shift? And then when you look at Uncle Larry, you say, well, are you going to overstep your bounds with Mark or with me because you think you're solidified and you're fine, you're comfortable? So you have to start to measure all of these different dynamics around not just what this contract or this agreement or what I think is best for right now, but how it's going to functionally work going forward. The biggest one perhaps is risk. If you continue to pile on family members on your payroll, on your journey, just in your scope of responsibility, you fail, everyone fails. And that is a tough, tough domino to be. And I really want people to start to understand they are already feeling this sense of, I don't want to say entitlement, but this sense of appreciation that one of us is there now and we're all going to get tiered up accordingly.
Right.
If you start to add that to a payroll, it is going to come from a retirement cliff to a retirement canyon. And it is going to get that much more exponentially difficult to transition because now not only one income is lost, but multiple incomes are going to be lost.
Perfect. So, I mean, look, and again, I think that and I don't know when you hit athletes with this, whether, I mean, look, I guess throughout their whole lives, but, it has to start a little bit early where, and I don't know, again, who's really responsible for this, if it's the universities, if it's the sports, if it's the coaches, if it's somebody, but I think there should be almost like a basic Bible, like a basic, read these 4 pages. These 4 pages are what all you need to know, whether it's a financial advisor, whether it's insurance, whether it's legal. Just read these 4 pages. That's all you need. Then otherwise, go ahead and keep swimming, keep skiing, keep football, whatever it is. And because they're not getting that stuff. And that's something that really needs to start at a young age. But then look, there's plenty of 50-year-old retired athletes that that also need to see that and read that, because
Hmm.
they still have never been told that. You know, as you were talking about, the NFL is doing a much better job and some of the other leagues doing a much better job. But crap, man, back in the 70s, 80s, 60s, it was nothing, man. You were like, dude, you're going to find a job and it's going to be digging ditches, cutting down
Hmm.
trees, whatever it's going to be. And good luck with that. Thanks for playing. See ya. So,
But
you know, that, go ahead.
just to tie in that,
Yeah,
one of the things we need as athletes to fully comprehend, and it's it's kind of humbling and it's scary, even in the training room. Athletic trainer, you get an injury, their responsibility, their job number one is not activities of daily living, ADLs. That is not their concern. If you can walk when you're 33, never enters into their mind. Now, maybe not never. I mean, there's still
yeah,
medical people,
sure.
but that, when I go into a dark room and sit down with the coach, can this guy go? The conversation is, can he go this Sunday? Not can he, go on
Yeah,
a jog in 5 years.
sure.
That is the same idea around your finances. Sure, I will hand you $1 million. Why I'm not paying a lot of money to make sure you handle your $1 million is because I don't care what you do with it after I write the check. That is your responsibility. You are now a professional. With the rookie to veteran mindset, what we focus on, step number one, is this be a pro mindset. It is humbling to look at, and I say this all the time. You line up 100 frat guys and you give them all $1 million, you show me how many of them end up with something either. But football players, ballerinas, I don't care who you are, doctors, no different when it comes to money. This one subject we should all understand and better know is never being taught in schools until now, because there's this program, it's an online program, it's called Your Money Vehicle. It's wonderful.
Mm.
Check it out. It's going to be in every high school and college in the country. No, but I look at this and I
Yeah.
say, we really have to communicate this idea that you have been handed an opportunity. You've been handed potential. It is your responsibility to eliminate that potential and to achieve the dream that we set out as 9-year-olds walking out on a playground to do.
Now, so this has all been great, and you've covered obviously a ton of ground in the short time we've had. But I want to shift a little bit now to just a quick couple minutes on your experience transitioning from, you know, the day that you decided, there was the day you woke up, whatever day that was, and you said, you know what, it's time. Whether I wasn't getting re-signed, I was a free agent, nobody was paying attention, whether it was an injury, whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, was there a point where before that happened, you were already planning ahead, or were you just, because look, most people, they don't anticipate their end at all, or some may say it's a year or two down the road, and some prepare, but most don't, and that's perfectly fine. I get it.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm trying to change all that. I know you are. But in your specific case, what did you experience?
So I actually wrote an article about it. You can go check it out. It's on my LinkedIn. It's called The Cocktail Party. I actually
Okay.
just reposted it, I think this week or last
Okay.
week. But it was around the specific event that alerted me that my journey was going to be over. Now, I was part of the fortunate few, and I put fortunate in quotations. I got cut 12 times. So I had to prepare for what was coming after, because people were telling me it was going to come very, very soon. So that was a blessing in disguise. That prepared me, and it started to make me focus on what was going to come next. That being said, the transition is extremely humbling. It's extremely challenging for many dynamics. Number one, your income's gone. Number two, the applause stopped. The first thing I said when I went into an office and sat at a cubicle and started to go to work is, nobody claps for you. And that's a bummer, because applause is cool. And so you look at that, and then you look at the educational gap that, those people who went in straight into a company have 6-7 years of experience and knowledge on you. And the most important one is that identity, a sense of purpose. I remember when Sean Payton got his year, that he was, suspended, he came
Mhm.
back, and the first message he said was, I missed my sense of purpose. As an
Right.
athlete, you throw a dartboard on a calendar, I can tell you what I'm supposed to do that day and why. And it's the why part that you really need to focus for a job and a pay. You get to challenge, and I challenge each and every athlete to hopefully have a cushion enough for a year or two to find this purpose. But that transition must begin with, where am I going to find a new energy? Are you ever going to find another energy or passion like your game? No, because it's too beautiful. It's too poetic. It's too, mixing of so many emotions. But I realized I needed a new direction, and I don't care what direction that is, start walking. And on that journey, you're going to turn, you're going to figure out different things. You're going to, readjust, pivot, or maybe even turn around. But as I started walking on a journey. I said, hey, finances, I want to go be my mentor who's a financial advisor. This is going to be a great career. And I started to achieve success in it. I started to make a lot more money. And then I said, well, I don't know if I want to do this. So then I pivoted into more marketing and business development and getting my message out. And then I said, well, I don't know if I really want to do this either. And now I'm in the world I am because this is ultimately what my passion was leading me towards. But you have to just start. The hardest thing for anyone to do on the transformation scale is to go from 0 to 1. And one of the things I encourage guys as they get done is just go. Go find somebody and say, I'm going to shadow you for a week. Go
Right.
find something and say, yeah, all right, a low cost investment. You want a couple grand to do a real estate flip? You want a couple grand to go and do this? I am totally fine as long as you educate me along the way. So if I can exchange a low entry for education and experience, I'll do that 9 days out of 10. And so that is the biggest and hardest part of the transformation, is the sense of my identity. You take a doctor at 47 and say, you no longer can be a doctor. They're going to be lost a little bit. So you need to
Absolutely.
find who you are. That doesn't change. What you do, how you do it, all of those elements can change. But who you are and what has been your brand as an athlete, not, hey, I'm the fastest guy, but maybe, okay, speed has always been associated with my name. One of the exercises I have them do is write their name down, and the Be a Pro mindset. When you see your name, what is one thing you get confidence in? When others see your name, what is one thing they trust about you? And when people who don't know you see your name, what is a value that you will add that they'll learn your name? That simple sequence shows you what your brand and your personality is. And that person will go find success in anything they do as long as they attack it.
That's amazing. So, you know, obviously there's the whole issue of transition. We can talk several hours about that.
Yeah.
But it's so critical, and it's something that you know, I think the public persona, that the feeling is that athletes, they leave their sport, they've got money, they've got endorsements, they've got medals, they've got all this stuff,
Yeah.
right? And they can walk into anywhere and sign autographs and so on. But I think what many people don't understand is that 98% of the athletes really do drop off the deep end one way or another. They lose their identity, they lose their focus, they lose their scheduling and their structure, and there's so many things that need
and
to
their
be
money.
and their money, of course. So, but look, let's. I'm gonna sort of cut it loose there, and just sort of, what is the best way for people to reach out to you directly, Jed?
So one, Mark, I appreciate this. I love the
Yeah, of
message
course.
you've been putting out, and truly I'm excited as I talk to guys to introduce them to you to help them through that phase of their life.
Super.
So my name's Jedediah Collins. You can check out jedediahcollins.com. Truly, I welcome feedback. I consider myself a great failure because I take feedback and I grow from it. I don't see failure or feedback as an end. It's just a beginning. So LinkedIn, Jedediah Collins, YouTube. I'm on Instagram and Twitter at JedCollins45. You can buy Your Money Vehicle as a great start to, truly anybody in that 13 to 30-year-old category, anybody who wants to start their idea of being a capitalist or just beginning a financial plan. It is the first 10 questions you should ask and answer. So by all means, reach out to me through my website or through social media. And I welcome the idea around this message, questions, thoughts, additions you have on this message, because truly we're just getting started. And I could not be more humbled in the craziness that has happened to my business over the last 2 months, but also encouraged at where I see these next 6 months being a loss and a investment in my next 6 to 16 years. And that's what's really exciting about this day and age.
Jed, you're such a failure. No, I'm kidding. You're not. I mean, that's no, hardly, man. This has been amazing. And look, I obviously encourage anybody listening to this and watching this that you do connect with Jed, and even if it's just to say hello or just to make that introduction. But obviously, your heart's in the right place. Your mind is certainly in the right place. You really seem to. You certainly know your stuff, and you certainly share the gene that I have. That the whole concept of really helping out and putting it out there and saying, look.
Mm-hmm.
We can all be better, right? So I love that. You make the perfect guest for these Make Your Mark live webinars, and it's all part of the Win Again Academy, as you all know. So I encourage people to absolutely check out JedediahCollins.com, check out MarkMoyer.com. I'll throw in my own little plug there.
Got to.
Yeah, of course. And here's my book, right? Oh, I didn't bring a copy of my book next to me again, but you don't have it either. Well, it's there somewhere, right?
Well,
but
this
anyway,
sign was for all those trade shows and schools I was going to.
Trust me, I get that. We got to pivot. Always got to pivot. But thanks again for being on, Jed. I appreciate your time, and we'll look forward to the next episode. Thanks again.
Thank you. Enjoy the day.
All right, well, always do. Thanks. See ya.